Hello, everyone. I hope that you all had a wonderful spring break. You can tell that it is still spring break as I record this since I'm sitting on the floor in my living room. But I did want to check in and introduce our next module and just do a little bit of recapping of our semester so far. So as of now, all of your grades should be up to date. So if you would, take a moment and make sure you log into Blackboard, and if there's any discrepancies and any grades that have been posted or maybe have not been posted, please let me know. I'm definitely human, so I definitely make mistakes, and I would just appreciate you guys double checking for me to be sure that you have everything accounted for. In terms of this week, we are starting my favorite module, which is on what I call the invisible gifted. So something that we've been talking about throughout this semester has been what we call the stereotypical view of what it means to be gifted. When I say the word gifted, an image pops into your mind, and you can't help that. Just like when I say the word dog, probably your childhood dog or your childhood pet may pop into your mind. Inside all of our brains, we have our own schema of how we represent information. And a lot of times, when we think about a gifted child, we have a stereotypical sitting in the front row, paying attention, behaving well student. And as we have seen, as we've studied these characteristics of gifted learners, that is definitely not true. It was really interesting for me to look through your gifted program analysis projects. A couple of things I wanted to point out as we go into this module on the invisible gifted. The majority of you investigated programs that are within South Carolina, so you pointed to identification within three different dimensions. The first being a norm-referenced aptitude test. Usually that's what we call the COGAT. That's the most common one in South Carolina. Then we have a norm-referenced achievement test. And that third dimension is kind of nebulous. It's saying something to the effect of performance. So that could be performance within the classroom, but then if you keep reading on some websites, it will say creative ability, creative performance. It's kind of, for lack of a better term, oftentimes used as a catch-all category, which is a double-edged sword because we know that giftedness is more than just academics, but we also know that if we have something that is not well defined, we have issues with reliability and validity. So really digging into what that third dimension may be in your particular classroom and your particular school or district is going to be very important. Another thing I wanted to point out, several of you all mentioned that there was some form of teacher recommendation involved with identification, even parental recommendation. Typically, we have what's called universal screening around grade 2 when all students are screened for gifted and talented. And then after that, those children can be re-screened, but that requires what we call an appeal. So let's say I have a son, John, and he takes the COGAT and he does not get placed into gifted based on that one testing, which we know we never make a decision based on one test score. That's already dangerous. So as a parent, I have the capability to appeal and say I want him to take the test again. That in and of itself introduces so much disparity because what if as a parent I do not know what this means? What if as a parent I'm working 2 or 3 jobs trying to support my family? So you can already see a lot of issues with socioeconomic status within gifted education programs. When I was working at the Torrance Center for Creativity in Georgia, I had parents call me and ask, how can I prepare my student for this Torrance test of creativity? I want them to be in the gifted program. Thankfully, you really can't prepare for that assessment, otherwise it wouldn't be reliable or valid. But I was surprised by how many phone calls I got. And if you think about it, not all parents are calling in. So there's already some kind of disparity going on. Your case study for this week is unfortunately based on a personal experience for me in which I am not Jasmine in the case study, but I worked closely with a colleague who I named Jasmine in this situation. And she was working in a low-income environment, and she came into her classroom for the first time and into the school, and there were no students identified as gifted. She approached the principal, asked him about it. In this case, it was a male, and the principal said, "Well, we just don't have those kids around here. We don't have gifted kids in this kind of school." And even as some of you wrote in your gifted education program analyses, some of you are working in schools that are from more low socioeconomic status environments, and some of you even said the same thing. Oh, well, we don't have a gifted program. There aren't enough gifted students. That is a huge problem, and you will see very quickly there are pervasive issues of underrepresentation in gifted education, not just with SES, but also ethnically and racially, and also students who are English language learners. We have a lot of issues with underrepresentation, and they really cannot be ignored. I cannot stress that anymore, that we can't just say it's okay, because it's not. And clearly, if we have such diversity within our school environment, we should have that same diversity reflected within our gifted programs. A lot of this has to do with teacher recommendations. If we don't appropriately train our teachers, then teachers are just going to nominate who they believe fits their stereotype of gifted students. They cannot help that. When you say the word gifted, every teacher has their own unique perception, and we have to combat those perceptions to make sure that we're being reliable and being valid. So in this case study, I'm asking you to think about what could Jasmine say and how could she handle this situation by having all of the students, or by trying to advocate for her students, even though the principal is saying in this situation, oh, we just don't have gifted students at this program. So from Jasmine's perspective, how would you respond to the principal? Within this library material, I want you to look particularly at the tabs. It stands for the traits, aptitudes, and behaviors. That is a teacher recommendation tool that was specifically developed to help increase identification of underrepresented populations. Way back when we started studying characteristics of gifted learners, I had you complete that gifted child checklist, and I told you I didn't like it. The reason I don't love that checklist is it's very positively worded, and the unique thing about the tabs is it demonstrates both the positive and negative manifestations of giftedness. So curiosity may look like I'm raising my hand in the front row, but it may also look like I'm reading a book underneath my desk because I don't care about your math lesson. Both of those are still showing the same core attribute of curiosity. As always, I'm looking for you to respond with your initial post by Friday and respond to at least 2 of your classmates by Sunday evening. Please make sure to continue citing your sources using APA style. I've really enjoyed reading your discussion posts and interacting on that. And I hope that this is a powerful week of material for you. This issue is so important, and it's my favorite topic because I don't want to say favorite. It makes me mad. This topic makes me upset because I have worked in so many different school environments and seen giftedness that goes unrecognized. And we have to get away from recognizing giftedness just from our own perception. Even if we grew up gifted, we have to realize that other gifted students may not look like us or act like us, and that's where the research comes in. So please make sure that you're looking at these materials in detail. As always, you're welcome to reach out to me, and I look forward to seeing your discussions and interacting with you guys on that discussion post. I hope you have a wonderful week back, and as always, I'm here for any questions or comments.